This live stream brought to you by the Excelsior Citizen and these generous sponsors. Since 1974, Chuck Anderson Ford has proudly served the community's automotive needs. From new and pre-owned vehicles to parts and service, they've been there in the past and they'll be there in the future. Visit Chuck Anderson Ford today.
Does shelter insurance cover shiny red cars?
Yeah.
What about purple vans?
Also, yes.
Monster trucks?
What's going on, son?
From shiny red cars to purple minivans, you can count on Shelter's local agents to help you protect what matters most.
Our Excelsior Springs Hospital, where better care is right in your backyard. The Simmons Sales Team, your hometown realtors.
Whether we're talking about our dedication to preventing and restoring power outages, our pursuit of safety, or providing the best member experience possible, we are relentless in serving our communities.
Find out how you can advertise with Excelsior Springs' #1 community resource. Visit ExcelsiorCitizen.com today.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I have your attention, please? Before we get started, I'd like to make a request. Can you guess what it is? Would you come forward for me, please, a little bit? It'll make it more cozy. Just move a little bit forward. If you move even a little bit, we'll be glad for that. There you go. There you go. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, tonight we are pleased to have Mr. Zach Thompson. And before I tell you a little bit about Mr. Thompson, I'll tell you just about myself briefly. My name is Jeff Kaiser, and some of you already know this from yesterday, but I'm a police detective at the Excelsior Springs Police Department. Mr. Thompson has been with the District Attorney's Office here in Clay County since 2011, and he has been the lead head prosecutor with the office since 2022. And he's here tonight for your benefit. He didn't come for himself, he came for you. He's here to help you, your family, your friends, in the hopes that you will not be a victim of fraud or ID theft or any related crime. And so I would ask you, if you would, to join me in giving him a warm welcome.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Chief Dole, Detective Kaiser, the Community Center here in Excelsior Springs, and all of you for being here tonight. I think our community is best served when it's educated. I think it makes us all safer. Like Detective said, I'm a prosecutor. I've been a prosecutor for a long time. And in my professional setting and in my personal life, I've seen the damage that fraud and scams can take. And as an assistant prosecutor, what happens is I meet people after the crime has occurred, right? As the prosecutor, my goal is to try to reduce crime before it even occurs. And that's why we came up with the C.E.A.S.E initiative, right? It stands for Citizen Education Against Scams and Exploitation. It's proactive in nature. We're going to talk about the most common types of scams that we see and ways to defend against them. So when I first made this presentation, it was for seniors, but over time it's evolved. What age group, a question for the audience, what age group do you think reports the most scams? What decade? 50s, 60s, 20s, 30s, 40s, anybody have a guess? It's 20s, right? Younger adults are falling victim to online scams at higher rates than senior citizens. But what happens is reported fraud goes down as age increases. However, the amount that the individual loses because of the fraud goes up. And victims above the age of 60 report the most lost per scam. So it's not just your senior citizens that are being targeted, it's everybody. Let's start with the most common types of scams. The vast majority of scams begin with your telephone. Who here has gotten a text message saying that someone was having trouble delivering you a package? Right? Has anybody got the text message about your car didn't pay your toll and now you owe money? Right? And so it's not just phone calls, it's text messages. Your phone connects you to scammers across the world, and they're using it to target you. And there's a million different types of scams. In Clay County, we've had folks contacted from people saying they're from the sheriff's office, that there's a warrant out for their arrest and they need to pay this money. We've had folks contacted from people saying they're from Platte Clay Electric, and if they don't pay this money, their power is going to get turned off. These scams are limited only by your imagination, but they all rhyme with each other. They all share certain common characteristics. And the first is urgency. You need to do something fast or something bad is going to happen. Right? Another common thing that we see in the scams is that they want you to keep it a secret. They don't want you talking about it with anyone. That's why they keep you on the telephone. They don't want you talking to anybody about what's going on. That's a huge warning sign. The urgency and the fact that you're not allowed to talk to anybody else. And the final warning sign is the method of payment. No legitimate government agency or business is going to demand that you pay with cryptocurrency. They're not going to demand that you pay with gift cards or anything like that. So those are the three big warning signs. Here's how you protect yourself. Don't let them rush you. Scammers want to get you under what's called the ether, where you're thinking emotionally and not rationally. Don't let them. Take your time. That's your first defense. Second, talk to someone you trust. Right? Because if you talk about it out loud, it's going to sound more like what it is, a scam. So if you don't have someone like that in your life, we handed out flyers. Our contact information's in there. You can call me at the prosecutor's office. I'd much rather have a 5-minute conversation with you on the telephone before you were the victim of a crime than hours and hours of conversations after you've been the victim of a crime. So Medicare and health insurance scams, this is another big one. Right? Hundreds of billions of dollars spent every single year in these areas. It's a huge part of the economy. Scammers know this, and they want a piece of it. So one of the common scams is you get contacted by someone purporting to be from Medicare, and they want you to update your information over the phone. That's always a scam. They will never ask you for that information over the phone. Another one is where someone contacts you and says you have to purchase supplemental insurance. Right? That's also a scam. That's all voluntary. You don't have to do that. So here's how you protect yourself. We talked about it a little bit already. You take your time. With this scam, you get it in writing. If it's important enough to them and to you, they can send it to you in writing. And finally, talk to someone you trust. Counterfeit prescription drugs. This is a dangerous scam. Right? In addition to people losing money and being swindled, it is dangerous. There's been cases where people have purchased counterfeit medications and they were yellow pills. Right? And they did a chemical analysis on these pills, and they were yellow because they used yellow road paint to color the pills. So in addition to not having the medicinal dose that you need in your medicine, it may actually be hurting you. So here are the 4 big warning signs for this scam. 1, they will sell it to you without a prescription. 2, they do not have a pharmacist available to answer your question, because by law, they're supposed to have that. 3, they're based outside the United States. And 4, this is an oldie but goodie, the price is too good to be true. Right? Those are all warning signs. So here's how you protect yourself from this one. Talk to your health care provider before you decide to switch where you're getting your medications from. Internet scams. So these We'll start with false and misleading ads. You would think there'd be some entity to make sure that the things, those pop-ups that show up on your computer or those advertisements on the side when you're scrolling on the internet would be true. There's some kind of verification. There's not, right? It's the Wild West. There's no regulations on these things. And false and misleading ads, right? You click on this thing, you think you're buying something, and the way you buy it is by giving your name, your address, your credit card information, and now they have that information. So if they are a scammer, you've given them all they need to take advantage of you. So even if you are purchasing something though, and this happens a lot, they sign you up for recurring things. Who here has purchased a subscription of something and had a real hard time canceling it? I have, right? Because it's real easy to sign up, but they don't make any money when you cancel it, and then you keep on getting billed. Malware. This is a fancy name for software where they can access your computer. Does anybody remember when the Kansas City Municipal Court got shut down? Do you remember the news stories about this? Somebody, a government employee, downloaded malware onto their computer, and the scammer hijacked the court system's computers, right? So if it can happen to courts, it can happen to you, right? This is the example where something pops up on your computer and says your computer's been infected with some kind of virus, right? And you click on it, and what you're really doing is downloading the virus. They say you have a virus. You click on it because you want to get rid of the virus, and now guess what? You've got the virus. So they can hijack your computer. So in addition to shutting it down, they also have access to all the information on your computer, right? Think bank records, passwords, everything. Phishing. This is where you get an email where it looks like it came from a legitimate entity, right? And sometimes they change a capital L or a lowercase l for a capital I or a 1, and it looks real similar to a legitimate email, but it's not. It's from a scammer. And they ask you to update your information, but really what they're doing is gathering your information and using it to take advantage of you. So the way you protect yourself from these scams is to take your time and not to give out your information to people over the internet, right? You need to go to trusted sources. And the last scam on here is sweetheart scams. And like I said, when I first created this presentation, it was for seniors. And I was talking to seniors about how there were people pretending to be service members based overseas, right? And they would get folks to fall in love with them and then send money overseas, right? And it would make sense. These scammers are based overseas. They would just say, the reason you're sending this money to a foreign country is because I'm deployed over there, right? And I would warn seniors about this. But it's not just seniors, right? There's been cases where kids in high school have fallen victim to this particular type of crime, right? They pretend to be someone that they're not. They get a young adult or a child to send images of themselves to the scammer, and then they use that to blackmail that child for either more images or to send money. And in some cases, the stress of that situation has caused a young person to take their own life. So it's not just seniors, it's all of us. Door-to-door scams. There was a storm that came through, maybe you noticed it. Has anybody gotten knocked on, had their door knocked on by someone who's going to work on your roof? Anybody got that? Right? So these scams take many different forms, right? The one that happened to me was I was at home and a gentleman rolled up and he had one of those hoverboards, right? These two-wheeled things where you can balance on it, and he zipped up to my door and he was selling me surveillance equipment, right? Cameras and things like that. And he had a laminated menu of things I could buy. And since I'm the anti-scam guy, right, I said, well, this is great. Leave me something in writing so I can look at it, so I can talk to my wife about it, right, and then I'll get back to you. And then he got on his hoverboard and he zipped off because he was a scammer. This also takes the form of, like I said, when the storm blows through and all these roofers come knocking on your door saying they got a deal for you, right? Another one is they knock on your door and say they're working on your neighbor's driveway, and they have some extra cement or some extra asphalt, and if you pay now, we can use that and we'll give you a great deal. So here's the warning signs on these scams. You have to act now, otherwise you're going to miss this great, great deal, right? That's the urgency. The second is the method of payment, but in this scenario, it's you have to pay up front, right? So here's how you protect yourself. You don't let them rush you. You take your time. And you do not pay up front to these door-to-door salesmen, right? If it's a good deal now, it'll be a good deal 2 days from now after I talk to someone and do my own research. This is a new addition as well. When I first created this presentation, we didn't have cryptocurrency as part of it. But cryptocurrency is a huge vector for scams and frauds in Clay County, in Missouri, and our entire country. So here are some warning signs. They demand payment with cryptocurrency. No legitimate entity will demand payment with cryptocurrency, right? If that happens, hang up the phone. There's guaranteed high returns. Sometimes what we see is folks get contacted on the phone, over the internet, through social media, and they're selling investment opportunities, right? And they say, if you buy this cryptocurrency, you're going to make triple your money. It's only going to take 2 weeks. And when they guarantee returns like that, that's a huge warning sign for you. Unsolicited contact. This person contacts you on Facebook or by cell phone or over the phone or knocks on your door, right? That is a warning sign. If you didn't go looking for a cryptocurrency investment opportunity, that is a huge warning sign. They direct you to a cryptocurrency ATM. Does anybody here know what a cryptocurrency ATM is? Well, so I didn't until a few years ago. They look like little actual ATMs at the gas stations, those small little ATMs that they have at gas stations. There aren't the big ones, right? But they don't give out money, they take money. These are little kiosks where you put in money and you can purchase cryptocurrency. And scammers have been using them in Clay County and all across the country to direct their victims to these machines, because they get you to put your money into the machine, and then you can electronically send that money directly to the scammer. It's instantaneous, it's anonymous, and your money is gone. And it is gone forever. Even if it's still in the machine, it is gone. There was a case in Kansas where law enforcement officers went to one of these machines, cracked it open, took the money out, handed it to the victim. What happened was the owner of that machine sued the police and won. Right? So when that money goes in, it is gone. So if anybody sends you to one of these machines, right, that's a huge, huge warning sign. We had a case where we spoke to somebody who was contacted. They said their bank account had been hacked, right? And the only way to protect their money was to put it into this machine. So they actually emptied out their bank account and put $100 bill after $100 bill into this machine and sent it to the scammer. And then their money really was gone. So here's how you protect yourself. It's like we've been talking about. You take your time, right? And you talk to someone you trust. And like I said, if you don't have someone in your life that you can talk this out loud, call us at the prosecutor's office. We'll talk about it. Like I said, I'd much rather talk to you on the front end of these situations. So here are some other common types of scams. Sweepstakes scams. This is an oldie but goodie, right? Who wouldn't like to win all this money, right? You get contacted in the mail, by email, by text message, over the phone, and great news. You've won the lottery, right? But there's a catch, right? You got to pay the taxes on the money, or you got to pay this fee to unlock the money. That is always a scam. According to the North American Lottery Association, you never, ever, ever have to pay to collect your prize. All right, so here's the warning signs on this one. If you get contacted in the mail and it's bulk postage, right, that is a warning sign. That means a lot of people got the same letter you did. And here's the biggest warning sign. If you did not enter the contest, right, you did not win. You must enter to win, and if you don't remember entering, I promise you, you did not win. And if there's any doubt about that, please contact me at the prosecutor's office, and for a small percentage of your $100 million prize, I'd be happy to help you collect it. Reverse mortgage scams. All right, raise your hand if you're a Tom Selleck fan. Right? Blue Bloods, Magnum PI. I'm a Tom Selleck fan. Who has seen him try to sell you a reverse mortgage? Has anybody seen his commercials? Right, have you seen the commercial he did where he says, I'm Tom Selleck and reverse mortgages are not a scam? Right? If you have to tell someone the thing you're selling is not a scam, that is a warning sign that the thing that they're selling very well may be a scam. And it's not, and when I say scam, it doesn't mean illegal. It just means a bad deal. So here's what you need to know about reverse mortgages. If you didn't know you needed one of these things before you saw the commercial for it, you don't need it. Right? A reverse mortgage is a loan. And because it is a loan, it has to be paid back. And it's an expensive loan. They have high fees associated with it. The interest rate is high on these loans. And one of the big selling points for reverse mortgages is you get to stay in your home. All right? That's not always true. This is a contract between you and someone who's loaning you money. And if you violate the contract, they very well may take your home. For example, if you fall behind on your taxes, if you fall behind on your utilities, they very well could take your home. If you find yourself in a situation where you need access to money and you have equity in your home, go to a bank, go to 3 local banks, and talk about your options with a banker, right? Before you think about getting reverse mortgages, because there are other loans available that are far cheaper and better. Investment scams. Raise your hand if you've heard of Bernie Madoff. Has anybody heard of Bernie Madoff? Right? That is an example of a Ponzi scheme where you use money from new investors to pay off old investors. And it looks great because everyone's making good money, making good returns on their investment. But the reality is, sooner or later, there aren't enough new investors to pay off the old investors, and the whole thing crashes. Another example is a Ponzi scheme, right, where they try to get you to sell stuff, but really these businesses, or a pyramid scheme, a pyramid scheme where they try to get you to sell things for them, and they make money off of getting people buying the stuff to sell them, right? It's not actually about selling the product. That's not how they make their money. So here's how you protect yourself from investment scams. You take your time, right? And you do your research, and you can research the investment, but you can also research the individual who's trying to sell you the investment. So that's what I would recommend you do. Take your time, do your research, not just on the investment, but on the person who's trying to sell you the investment. Fraudulent charities. I was contacted by folks with the Excelsior Springs Police Department just recently. They were made aware of a fraudulent charity, right, where folks would show up at a busy shopping area, and they would have pamphlets made up, and they would have a story about someone who was in need, right? And they would be raising money for this person who is in need. Well, the reality is this person didn't exist, right? And on top of that, they were collecting money with a credit card reader. A square is a thing that you can attach to your cell phone, and you can like run your credit card through it. If you've ever bought something from a food truck or like that, they have these little squares you can run your credit card through. So what they were doing is getting people to donate $5 through their credit card, but when they did that, right, they were stealing their information, and they would have the person who was donating the money adjust their settings on their phone so they had all sorts of information they didn't have before. So not only were they giving money to a fake charity, they were also giving up important information of their own so they could be victimized even further. Job application scams, right? This initially wasn't on there when I created this presentation, but younger folks are falling victim to this scam on a very regular basis. Right? It's a very challenging job market for some younger folks out there, and they're applying for jobs, and when they do, they provide all their information to this person, right? They provide social security number, name, address, and scammers will use that information to steal identities. I don't know if Excelsior Springs, I'm sure you do, right? You have your community Facebook pages where someone says in the comments, make $1,000 a week, work from home, right? Have you seen those, right? Those are very, very often scams, 100% of the time, because what they do is they get your bank account information, right? Because they're like, we'll just direct deposit your payment straight into your bank account, right? But the money's going to be flowing the other way. So you have to be very careful about those as well. So here are some tips to protect yourself. The first one, be aware. The first step is realizing that you are a target for scammers, right? And here's a fact, it's a sad fact, but it's true. The vast majority of victims of elder abuse are victimized by people close to them, right? Loved ones and family. It's not always just a stranger in a different continent over the phone or over the internet. This happens to people from people they know as well. You should watch out for unsolicited offers. If you didn't need the thing before you heard the radio commercial selling a reverse mortgage, or before someone knocked on your door, or you got the text message, or the letter came in the mail, or you received the email, you should think very hard about whether or not you need the thing that this person is trying to sell you. Guard your personal information. And this isn't just keeping your social security card and your birth certificate and your license in a lockbox at home, right? This is, pardon me, this is not giving that information out to people over the phone. It's not giving it out over text message or by email. Protect and guard your personal information and be very careful who you share that information with. Take your time. I've said that a bunch, but it's very, very important. If you take your time, and think about what's happening, you can save yourself a lot of trouble and a lot of heartache. And finally, talk to someone you trust. Like I said, that could be a friend, a neighbor, us in the Clay County Prosecutor's Office. We're happy to talk to you. You do those things, you do all these things, and you will drastically reduce the chance of you ever being the victim of a scam. So here are some warning signs that someone close to you might be falling victim to scams. First, there's unusual changes in their bank accounts. Think about multiple withdrawals from an ATM when they don't normally do that. Think about big changes in their balance. Also, changes in appearance. Sometimes when a person is being victimized by a scammer over time, they appear unkempt, right? They look harried. Isolation. Right? Scammers want to isolate their victims because if they isolate them, they can prevent them from doing the thing that we talked about to defend against scams, which is talking to someone you trust, right? They want to keep their victims isolated. That's why they keep you on the phone when they tell you to go empty out your bank account and put your money in the cryptocurrency machine. Unpaid bills, right? This is another one, right? It means the money is not going where it's supposed to. The bank account's been empty. And this last one, this one's personal to me. I remember going to my grandma's house as a child, and she would have all these magazines and all these plain cardboard boxes built up because what had happened was a door-to-door scammer had sold her all these magazine subscriptions, right? And she was not a hunter or a fisher, or she did not fish, right? But yet she had all the magazines because what they had told her was the more magazines you buy, it increases your odds of winning the Publishers Clearinghouse lottery, which is a lie, right? So that's also a warning sign. So here are the next steps. If you or someone you know has been victimized by a scammer, stop contact. We've had incidents where someone's been victimized by a scammer, and then they get contacted again by someone else, and they say, for a fee of $1,000, I'll be able to retrieve all the money you lost to that scammer. And guess what? They get scammed again. So stop all contact with the scammer, and then you need to report it, right? When you report it, it helps law enforcement, it helps the prosecutor's office, it helps our whole community know what's going on in our community. and it gives us a chance to try to find the person who's doing it. You need to assess your security, right? Do you need to change passwords? Do you need to cancel credit cards? Do you need to contact your bank? Assess your situation so that you can be safe moving forward. And finally, you need to be able to talk about it. And you need to be able to talk about it in a safe place. I can promise you the last thing that someone who's been the victim of a scam needs to hear is, how could you have been so stupid? Or how could you have been so foolish? Because I know they are already feeling that. So you need to be able to talk about it in a place that's safe. And if someone wants to talk to you about it, I would very much encourage you to refrain from saying those words about how could you have been so foolish, because they're already feeling that. The truth is, that's one of the biggest barriers to people reporting scams, is they're embarrassed, right? That's one of the reasons scammers target senior citizens. It's because senior citizens don't, when they've fallen victim of a scam, they don't want their family members to think they can't take care of their own affairs, right? I've seen it in my own life. I've seen it with family members in my own life. So it's true. So if ever someone is like that and they fall victim to a scam, they need to talk about it. I'll let them talk about it with you in a judgment-free area. All right. Well, so thank you very much. That's our. Please find us on Facebook. We give updates about what's going on in the Clay County Prosecutor's Office. We'd love for you to like it and follow us and learn more about the work we're doing. So what I'd like to do now is, if anybody has any questions about what they heard or what's been going on in Excelsior in their own lives, I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any. Yes, sir.
What's the procedure in reporting? You said you should report it. How do you do it, and what's the procedure?
Yeah. So his question was, what's the procedure for reporting it if you know a scam has happened? So I would encourage you to contact, if you live in Excelsior, to contact the Excelsior Springs Police Department. If you live in Excelsior, I'd call the Excelsior Springs Police Department. And if you live out in the county, call the Sheriff's Office. Yes, sir. It's low. Well, so I use all legal, moral, and ethical tools at my disposal. So the question was, what percent of scammers do we catch? And the follow-up question was, when you do get a hold of them, what do you do to them, right? So these scammers are based overseas, right? A lot of them are, right? And when you send your cryptocurrency to someone on a different continent, it really strains the Excelsior Springs Police Department, the Clay County Sheriff's Office, and the Clay County Prosecutor's Office ability to hold those folks accountable. So the truth is, when those scams happen over the internet, it's really, really low. And that's why this conversation is so important, right? Because the best way to deal with that is to make sure it never happens in the first place. Your second question was, what do I do to them, right? And the answer to that is, I use all legal, moral, and ethical tools at my disposal to hold them accountable for the harm they've done to our community. Yes, ma'am.
When you said to investigate the person selling you a project, what source would you suggest to investigate?
I can give you that information. There's a website, and I don't know it off the top of my head, but I believe investment advisors in particular have to register, right? So there is a central database. I don't know it off the top of my head, but let me get it for you. Yes, ma'am. So the question was, how do you get them to stop calling your landline over and over and over again? So here's what I would do. I would unplug my phone. I mean, is this you or someone you know? Do they ever get a legitimate phone call ever on that telephone? Do they really? Is his main phone? Well, so, people sell the no-call list, right? And that's great. But the reality is, if you're a criminal trying to take advantage of people, the no-call list is not going to dissuade you from trying to criminally take advantage of people. I mean, it may keep, legitimate businesses from calling you, but it's not going to keep the criminals from calling you, right? So, I mean, I guess if he has caller ID, I would write down the 5 phone numbers or however phone numbers of the people who he's expecting calls from and answer only those phone numbers, right? And not answer any other phone number. And it used to be, I don't know if you remember a time when those phone numbers would come in and they'd be some weird number that didn't start with an 816 and you knew not to answer that phone, right? That's not the case anymore, right? They've got spoofers. So these phone numbers look like they're local 816 numbers and they are not, right? So you can't even use that as a method. So if this person has to have the landline, I would recommend just writing down the numbers, and if it's not one of those numbers, don't answer it. There's no law that says you have to answer the phone. Does anybody have any more? Yes, sir.
Concerned about the mail we get. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one, but you get 5 or 6, I want you to donate to this and donate to that. Is there a way of telling which ones are those are legitimate and which ones aren't?
So the question was, what do I do when I get all these things in the mail soliciting donations for causes, right? I know what you're talking about. My father is a Marine Corps veteran, and he gave money to one of those charities. And what happens is sometimes these charities sell their lists to each other, right? They found somebody that is willing to donate, and then they purchase those lists, and then they solicit more donations. So here's what I would do if I were you. I'd throw them all away, and then I would find the one charity or 2 charities that you believe in and give them money directly, right? That's how I would do it, right? And it's great that people are civic-minded and want to support charities and nonprofits, but I would just find a couple that you know personally and donate to those, and then throw away the rest. Yes, ma'am. Are you talking about? Sure. No. So that hasn't happened. I'm unaware of it ever happening successfully. But I know that is a concern for people, because you're not the first one who's asked me about it. The Recorder of Deeds of Clay County, you can put like a deed alert on. So I would encourage you, if you're worried about that in your home, right? If you're worried about people filing fraudulent liens and titles and deeds at the Recorder of Deeds office, you can call the Recorder of Deeds office, give them your information, and they will let you know when stuff like that happens. Right? And that not only will that protect you, it will give you peace of mind as well. But the reality is people can't steal your home, right? Because if they filed some document, they would have had to forge your signature, right? Which is a felony. And if they commit felonies, they're not getting your house. Yes, sir. I would never do a reverse mortgage, right? Because the reality is, if you want money, because the reverse mortgage is a loan, right? And if you need a loan, there are better ways. And if you own your home and you have that kind of equity, there are more efficient, cost-effective ways to get a loan. I mean, and like I said, it's not necessarily criminal, right? It's just not necessarily a good deal. I mean, they wouldn't be selling it if they weren't making money off of it, right? Yes, sir.
sign with your Yahoo account, your account, and your password. Scam or is that really hard or
I mean,
perfect hard things that actually want my information to send you?
there are special things where you can send. So you're getting an invitation to a party by email, and it's an invitation to a party, and it does it say who it's from? From an address that you know, or like a name that you know? Yeah. So here's what I would do. I would delete that, and then I would call the person you know, right? Because often what happens is they provide bad information or bad contact information. And if you use the information that you got from the scammer, they're just going to direct you to the scammer. So this is like doing your own research, right? Well, yeah, so this is a perfect example. You do your research, you take the time, right, and you talk to someone you trust. In this case, it would be the person who allegedly sent you this invitation, right? You just call up that person and say, hey, did you invite me to anything? And they say yes or no, and then you know.
I really will pick comments from hit reply, and then you can see their actual email address. Instead of like the highlighted thing, you can't see the whole email address sometimes. You hit reply, you don't actually send it, you'll actually see their real email address. And that's when you can see one character's off or.
Sure. No, I mean that's another. When you get an email, when you hover over the email, because it'll give like a name like Bob Johnson, right? And then you hover over the Bob Johnson, and then you see that it's just a series of numbers and characters that are 15. Right. So yeah, I mean that's another way. Okay. So his question was, he's been getting emails where he's invited to this party, but he has to sign into something and give away information to see the details of this invitation to this party. And basically the advice was delete that email and then call the person who is allegedly inviting you to this party directly because you know what their phone number is, and to find out if it's legitimate or not, instead of following the links on the email. And then she mentioned the fact that sometimes when those emails say they're from Bob Jones, if you hover above it, you can see that it's not actually Bob Jones. It's a series of numbers and characters that are, 20 characters long, and it's not really a legitimate email. All right. If any more questions? Yes, sir. Sure.
Sometimes I get a message and it will say, I really like you to a friend. Can you send me a friend request? Is there, if you send them a friend request, does that somehow give them access to information or something? Because they could send you a friend request.
Yeah, no, that sounds really suspicious to me. I think if they wanted to be your friend, they could just send you a friend request on Facebook. Maybe their account is limited. A lot of scammers set up a lot of fake Facebook accounts, and Facebook has algorithms to try to weed those out. And maybe what they're trying to do is if they actually receive friend requests, instead of only send them out to people, it'll keep the algorithm from deleting this fake profile. So I would not respond to those, right? No, I get friend requests from scantily clad women wanting to be my friend all the time on Facebook, and I know it's a scam. Yeah. Is there a question in the back? So what he said was he was talking about text message scams, about tolls and warrants. He said there was a text message scam purporting to be from the bank, right? And they used that as a way to defraud someone, right? And that's a perfect example. When you get contacted by an unusual method, by somebody who purports to be your bank or your lawyer or something like that, do not follow the links they provided, right? Call the phone number that you know is your bank's, right? Don't, or that you know is your lawyer's, or you know is your investment advisor. Don't follow the links that were given to you. Do your own research. Call the number that you know is them, right? Because if you follow those links or call those numbers, it's just going to direct you to the scammers. What's that? What's that?
They'll have Social Security, they give the wrong number that you're actually into some, you're talking to some company, they'll do something.
No, and when that happens, right, it's always better just to loop in somebody else, right? Talk to someone you trust, right? Because they'll just lead you down the rabbit hole.
I mean, it's just that it looks like it would have to be against the law for them to use like information. Since we no longer have information, we can go into Google and try to Google like Social Security number, get it to the Social Security office or whatever office, and you'll get a listing of a lot of other tests related to that. But it's not really. They're another service, not necessarily are they scammers, but your information is out.
No, what you're saying is that you try to find the right phone number, and the internet's polluted with all the fake numbers, right? So I would encourage you to go to reputable sites that end with .gov, right? Because the federal government does a pretty good job of making sure there's not a lot of imitation Social Security sites that end with .gov.
I get a lot of, just back to my phone number, like messages. Oh, hi, Carol. My name's not Carol.
Yeah, no.
But, hi, Carol. You know, I don't know if you remember me. We met at Davis, or we met at some conference or something. And it comes across on my phone number. It's like a text on my phone.
Yeah.
So,
I've got one that says it's been a long time. I was like, it has, I guess. Yeah. You shouldn't, right? There's no law that says you have to answer the phone. There's no law that says you have to answer the door to some stranger who knocked on your door. There's no law that says you have to do those things. And if it's important, they'll call you back or leave a message or send it to you in writing. Well, half of it's going to taxes.
Well, I know it was interesting that it was billion and not million, you know, and that's weird. And I just said, you know, but, you know, it's like, how can they, you know, how can you set it? I mean, without taking your phone number completely off.
Here's what they should do. Right, and this requires federal legislation. I enforce the law, I don't make the law. But they ought to, I mean, you've got a call on your phone that says scam likely or potential fraud, right? Which means the phone company knows that this is very likely a fraud. And then they put the phone call through anyway. How hard would it be to just make it not go through? Right? It seems like that would be a pretty simple solution to this problem. Did you have something to add?
Yeah. Zach, so while we're sitting here, this is a department, government-issued police work phone that my police department gives me. And you can look at it, Zach, there's a scan, looks all official, asking me to pay for my traffic fines. I can assure you, my chief of police is sitting in the back. If I had traffic fines, he would not be very happy. So, but it looks very official, and like I said, it's to my police department work phone. So don't think that it's just you guys. It comes to everybody. We all get them. Got it at 6 p.m. So
yeah. So it's got the seal of Missouri at the top. It's the municipal court of St. Louis County. I don't know what offense you committed there. Yeah. So. what's the question again?
Is your office easier to report fraud to than Medicare?
I mean, you can report it. You could report it to me, but I'm not going to be able to help with the Medicare fraud thing. I mean, you can let us know, but I'm the wrong person to let know about Medicare fraud, right? I encourage you to let us know, because at the very minimum, we are going to have that information and we can have a conversation and identify trends that are happening in Clay County, right? So yeah, the more information, the better. That's my perspective. And we'll be able, we have people 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, right? There's people who answer the phone at our office, right? And they'll direct you to the right person. And, it may be me, and we'll have a conversation. Yeah, no. We're very customer service minded in the Clay County Prosecutor's Office. So yeah, we answer the phone, and if we don't know the answer, we'll try to find the answer or direct you to the person who will have the answer. Okay. Sure. No, understandable. Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Something about his earnings in IT, he said, hang up, which as soon as the guy realized he hung up. But I tried to report it, kind of Googling, but it was too difficult for me at the time. I was kind of stressed out with taxes anyway. What is the easiest way to report something like that?
Well, so the Attorney General has a place you can report fraud, right? The FCC has a place you can report fraud. You can always, like I said, if you can. Well, I think you should report it, right? You should never. But the reality, right? At the very minimum, it allows us to identify trends and problems that are occurring, right? At the very minimum, right? And it potentially could be an important clue in a case that's unrelated. So I always encourage folks to report the information. I'd rather know about it, right? And I'm sure the Attorney General and the FCC and Medicare, I'm sure they'd rather know about it.
The detective that advertised this meeting had a couple addresses, email addresses to report. Did you show those to everybody else? You're talking about report something that
he can post them. We'll post them to our Facebook page, and then the Excelsior Citizen. But if you want him directly, he's right here, and I'll have him contact him. But we'll post them.
Oh, wow.
I almost had to, but for some reason, I don't even remember, it's been a long time ago, but a few years ago, I called my case right away. Before they closed, and I was telling her, and she said, I don't know what's wrong here. She said, yes, it's here, I'm shutting it down. She shut down everything. Immediately, I didn't say anything, I don't know, but, and then I had to get a recheck it out, and they told me just to do it today. They can have a look and they can help. So if there's something going on,
yeah, I mean, that's not a bad idea. She got a bad phone number, called the scammer when she was talking to her bank. Yeah, and I communicate with bank folks a lot, And they do a lot of good work on the front lines when people come and try to empty out their bank accounts. They try to slow down the process and talk to folks about what's going on for sure. But that's the last line of defense. Did you have something you'd like to say?
Yes, you have a perspective to hear about people that pass keys that are supposed to be
The question is on passkeys? Like in what setting? I'd want to understand, because I imagine there's different types of these things. It'd be very fact specific. No, I mean, I've had one before when I was accessing secure emails, but that was usually provided to me by an entity. Are you thinking about getting one just for yourself?
So talking about authenticator, like VPN. I've been getting sent messages. Oh, you need to start sending passkeys for all of your accounts because passwords are not secure. But I haven't done it because I looked at it once and I'm like, this is too complicated.
I also feel like that may be a potential scam because if they collect all your passwords, like give me all your passwords and I'll keep them safe for you. I mean, you might want to be careful. I mean, I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Like on your computer that save your password? No, I have that. I mean, but that would be one of those things where you want to make sure that was a computer in a very safe place. Like my laptop at home that I share with my wife, right? We have automatic password managers that sign us in automatically into our account. What's that? Are you talking about password managers? Yeah, I mean, I use a password manager on my personal laptop that I keep at home. It's very, very secure and very safe, and the laptop itself is password protected because I don't want to have to type in my username and password every time I visit the 100, all the different sites we go to. Thank you.
But be careful with the passkey when telling you to change your passwords to a passkey. I'd be careful. Because everything goes
1 hour. 1 hour, is that one? 1 hour. Okay. Do you have one more question, sir?
Yeah, the zero to no call.
Yeah.
Okay, is that legitimate? And
Sure.
secondly, if it is, and you have someone call you, and you don't know who they were, and you say, take my ID, what best you can do is say, take the name off of this. What if they don't? That would be my question.
Well, so those calls that you're getting that are blowing up your phone all the time probably aren't from legitimate entities, right? You can sign up for the no-call list, right? And if Walmart kept on calling you, they could get in serious trouble and it would cost them a lot of money. But if you're a criminal that's willing to steal from people, they probably won't respect the fact that you signed up for the no-call list, right? They just won't. They're already committing crimes. They don't care if they're violating Missouri's no-call list. So here's what I say to people. You don't have to answer the phone. And if it's important, they'll leave a voicemail. And if you want to, then you can call them back. You can block them, but they generate phone numbers. They have AIs generating phone numbers faster than you can block them. Just like blocking emails. You can block an email, but they randomly generate these. Okay. Sure. All right. Are you?
Yes, I want people to know that people can actually change the name and the phone number on your screen. And they can actually use recorders to sound like your grandma. So I just want everybody to know we can actually do that because when I got into this,
Yeah, no, there's websites that you can go to, right? And you can type in the phone number you want to appear on someone's caller ID. Yeah. You let him sit in jail. All right. Well, so we'll do one more question. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I think this was to go to 7 o'clock. So, and you're right. Yeah, no, so we've talked a lot about all the ways that scammers can take advantage of you, right? But here's the reality. You do have tools to protect yourself, right? And we talked about this. And the reality is you should take your time, talk to someone you trust, do your research, and just keep an eye on your finances, right? I check my bank account every couple days just to make sure, because you can do everything right, but the reality is you can still fall victim to these fraudulent activities, right? When your credit card company has their database hacked, right, you could do nothing wrong and still have your information out there. So I encourage everyone just to just kind of keep an eye on it and be vigilant, not scared, but vigilant about protecting themselves. All right. So I thank everybody for taking the time to come and educate yourself about these scams. It makes me feel good about our community that you came out here to do your part to keep us all safe. So thank you very much for being here tonight.
Thank you.